Hey there, this is Franklin, and you're listening to Who Asked Us? Deep thoughts, lighthearted conversations. Here, you'll listen along as we discuss our way through the Bible with a growing, rotating panel of guests, none of which claim to be experts on any of this. We hope you get just as much out of these conversations as we did having them. Thanks for listening.
Emotionally drained.
Yeah, exactly. Emotionally drained. I'm tired, and I'm just like, I just want to lay forever. Yeah. So it's been a week. How are you guys doing? James, how are you?
I'm good. I'm just finishing up my croutons here.
I love that for you.
Does that count as blasphemy or no?
Croutons. They're not
I feel like eating straight up croutons out of the bag.
No.
Were
It's
you
actually
like
healthy
mentally
for you.
like, I need to finish this before we actually start?
There's
because I
like
can't have the
two
crunch.
halves of a crouton left. I'm like eyeballing them.
No, his first episode, he whips out a Tupperware. It doesn't even say anything. A Tupperware, not the bag.
Yeah.
Oh, and they weren't
Mhm.
homemade, were they?
No, God no. The homemade ones are
Tupperware.
homemade ones just never hit right. The store bought ones that are just perfect.
No,
yeah, I can't explain.
I got you, dog. You make it after you roasted chicken, and then you pour the schmaltz on there. You toss it in that. You bake in the oven. Very good.
You're talking to a vegetarian, but yeah, it does sound like it would be good.
I don't know.
didn't
You
know
had
that.
some mackerel the other day.
Fish?
That is very
That's
true.
fish, right?
I am a pescatarian. I call myself a fake vegetarian.
No, that's
It's close.
basically
You
what
are
it is.
fake.
Yeah.
I agree. That is fake vegetarian. My aunts are all pescatarian. I agree.
Wait, Sarah, you're a real vegetarian?
No, I'm not
No.
a vegetarian. I've
I've seen
all
Sarah
of the
eat
meat.
so much like, burgers, Thai food. There's so much food
I love
that,
all of
that
it.
has
But-
meats she's eaten.
But in my family, like a lot of my aunts, like actually all of my aunts are all pescatarian. So they're all, and one I think is politarian technically because she only
What
eats
is that?
chicken.
What?
Then you're not. You're just a guy or a girl.
Is that
whatever.
I
just
know.
chicken?
It's just chicken. Like
just
you're
somebody who
allowed to
doesn't like
eat
beef.
chicken.
That's what you are.
Yeah, basically.
Have
Well,
you guys
lamb,
heard of
you
the
know? Sorry.
Have you
Guess
guys
so.
heard of the carnivore diet where people
Mhm.
just eat just meat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Apparent.
yeah, go ahead.
So apparently, there's some people who like swear by it. They're like, "Hey, I had this terrible life condition or health condition, and it totally changed everything." I think if you are going through some crazy autoimmune thing and that helps you for some reason, God
Yeah.
bless. But like,
Yeah.
I'm very much like I follow a lot of the this one doctor Paul Saladino, and I like his stuff. But even he goes too far. He's
Yeah.
like meat and fruit only. It's like animal based.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, listen, man. Even he turns around and he says, if you're doing well, don't change anything. If you're
Yeah.
not doing well, maybe try this. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. Like he's just like, listen, for those of you in a tough spot where maybe something's not agreeing with you, do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And all of them are just like, just don't eat processed foods. I think that's the big takeaway.
Yeah, that I've heard that
Yeah,
before.
for sure.
My thing is, if you're eating, and I'm going to preface this, I have no clue. This is just totally my nonsense in my head. But if you're eating only meat, you're probably like from like a balanced diet point of view.
Mhm.
Like, you're eating an animal that probably had a relatively balanced diet. So then you're kind of like relatively balancing your diet. But if you're
That makes sense.
So it's kind of like a shortcut, I guess, to balancing your diet. You get most of the nutrition you need from the animal. But if you're a vegetarian, it's pretty hard to balance your diet. Like, you have to make sure
Yeah.
you're eating a lot of vegetables, getting protein some way. Vegetables generally have enough protein, but you have to eat a ton of them.
Well, it's also, they're not as, I don't want to say not nutrient dense, but they don't have the same amount of nutrients.
It's actually
the
more
plethora, I would say.
nutrients per calorie, but not per weight. So, like, if you say you have like an
I
8-ounce
see.
steak and you have 8 ounces of broccoli, the steak will have a lot more calories and, iron and protein or whatever. But if you had 100 calories of steak or 100 calories of broccoli, the broccoli actually technically has more iron and protein. But
I meant more
100
like-
calories of broccoli is like a giant
Yeah.
plate of broccoli. It's like a full flour of broccoli.
Sure. But I'm more talking about, I guess I said it wrong. Like, like broccoli has a couple of nutrients, and then you'd have to get some more from
yes,
your
absolutely.
legumes and get a couple. Like, you have to
Definitely.
think about it and
Mhm.
like really like know what
Absolutely.
you're doing. So, but you don't know who. What's crazy is someone who didn't have to deal with that is Abram
Mm-hmm.
with all the stuff he left Egypt with, because Kenneth is running late. He texted me, so we're gonna get started without him. So that's our segue. I'm throwing out right off the bat.
Yeah.
They let him keep all the stuff.
I could not agree more.
Yeah.
Like, so, yeah, chapter 12 was wild, okay?
Yeah.
Like, totally wild. Abram tells his wife, tell people I'm your sister, or you're my sister, whatever, so that people give, not, I guess, more to save his own life, not to get
Yeah, I don't
the
think he
gifts,
did it
right?
for the stuff.
Right. But, I mean, like, the stuff's pretty nice, right? And all of a sudden he leaves Egypt. They leave Egypt as rich people. And so, yeah, very weird that they were just allowed to walk out of there with all the stuff.
Even, like, and we were freaking out about it last time, like, okay, was God punishing Abram for going there, kind of a thing, when he didn't specifically tell him to go there, like, when all this kind of stuff, and that's why that stuff happened to Sarah, it gave him, or Sarai in this moment, right? And so, like, was he put in a situation to do the wrong thing, whatever, and then Pharaoh finds out and goes, oh, I gave you all the stuff, and you didn't tell me that this was your wife, and you brought these curses on me, get out of here. And nobody went, and also, give me all that stuff back.
Yeah.
Get out of here and keep everything I gave you. Like, I
know.
find that so weird.
I mean, I can see it like they just left so quickly, they just grabbed it, that'd be my guess, but it is.
I guess that's fair.
You would think like they would be like tossed out almost, like like you're being
like you don't even have time to bring anything,
right? Yeah, exactly. So, but either way, sounds like a pretty good scam, and it sounds like something I will consider doing in the future. No.
What's it called? Well, there's also a part of me that I'm curious what you guys think, because I read that, and that was my first thought. I was like, okay, they let him leave with all the stuff. But then I also was thinking to myself, as I read the rest, the situation that Abram and Lot end up in is because Abram comes back with all this cattle and etc. whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, wait a second, this kind of had to happen for this moment to happen. Whether or not this moment had to happen specifically, for us, for Abram, whatever. Like, I thought it was just interesting to go, oh, we wouldn't have gotten this story had Abram not done that part where he went into Egypt, and was he supposed to, was he not supposed to, whatever, because now he comes back with this problem.
Yeah, that's interesting. That it's almost like, more money, more problems, where it's like, this is, I don't know if you're getting there.
Pop culture reference for today?
Yeah. No. I'll think of a good one. But, like, I don't know, one of the things that lives in the New Testament in my mind rent-free is, like, a rich man, it'll be easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter heaven. And so I almost wonder if this is somehow, if there's some undertones of that, of something like that, right? Like in this story where it's like, only when possessions became too great did these problems really start, or whatever came to a head. And I'm going to kind of jump ahead a little bit, but I think it's mentioned twice in chapter 13 of Genesis. I have to double check, where Abram sets up an altar to God and prays or whatever, right?
It's not twice in this chapter. Basically, it says he goes back to the place where he had originally built that altar, and then they decide, okay, where are we going, guys? And when Abram goes to where he's going to end up, he builds another altar. The first altar he had built like a chapter or two ago.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, but either way, like, I think that's kind of like the main, like, pin. Two main points, I guess, two main pins in the story for me is that it's like the money itself, or whatever, the money, the possessions, the livestock, became so great that a lot of land couldn't be shared now between two families, and then, but the other point is that Abram made it, at least it's pointed out that Abram, intentionally was building an altar to God, and he wasn't claiming it for himself, as like. Right, like every person would do, being like, I'm a self-made man, and
sure.
All that stuff. So, and I don't want to jump too far ahead. So, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts on it too.
I want to throw out. I'm curious what you guys all think about this, because James, how you just phrased that made me think of, anyone else follow that guy on Instagram who like walks up to just random millionaires or billionaires and like, how'd you make your fortune, whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I'm interested in that. I'm not looking for that specific stuff, but it pops up and I'm like, oh, I'll watch this. And a lot of them will be like, well, first things first, praise God. Like, not all of them, but a lot of them
A
will.
lot of people, yes.
Yeah.
Something I've noticed too.
And they're like, listen, like, you know, he'll help you out, XYZ. You know, it's usually pretty informal, but they're like, praise God, that's number one. And then they go into the rest of their advice. And every time I hear that, I'm like, is that the kind of, like, rich person that can't go through the needle, so to speak, whatever? Like, because I've heard that, and I know we're taking that out of context, but I haven't read up to that context in the Bible. So I'm curious, like, maybe we could take a second and kind of talk about that. Is it bad to be rich? Per se, or is it more like, well, Abram, you know, he became rich, but he wasn't trying to become rich in this way. He was also kind of rich before, you know, living in his father's house. He wasn't really trying to be rich. And even in this moment, he didn't seek to be more rich. He wasn't like, oh, I got to take the good land. Lot said he'd take the good land. And Abram was like, I'll take wherever God wants me to go. So you pick whatever. It'll be fine for me.
Well, I think it kind of reminds me of like even like the story with like the talents. I was actually using this analogy in like therapy recently, and like how sometimes like we are called to multiply what we're given or to do something with it, right? And so like because I think the story goes like there was a master and he gives like his servants a couple of talents, right? And then I think one servant was kind of like he just buried it in the ground and did nothing. And then there was another servant who like took the talents and he multiplied it, and another who took the talents and like he actually lost, right, from the investments that he made. But the master wasn't displeased with the person who lost their talents or who gained more talents. He was most displeased with the person who did nothing with what was given to him. And maybe like, and so I kind of compare that to Abraham a little bit, like how, you know, God gave him and presented him opportunity, right? And it didn't matter where he was, whether he was in Egypt or this new land, right? Like wherever he went, he was fruitful and he multiplied what was given to him. And it kind of just makes me think of like even like the power of creativity, right? Like because I was reading something more recently about how the prefrontal cortex is very like logical. And if you try to be smart, it is actually harder to actually get like that creativity portion reenacted.
Wait, explain that again. What is it? What do you mean?
So like when you're trying to solve a problem, right? Like if you're trying to solve like 6 times 4, the more you look at the problem, right, and try to logically figure it out like through the front of your brain, like through the prefrontal cortex, or when you like see people who are like trying to be smart, right? Like they're trying to be all like, you know, very like I have all of this knowledge, right? When it comes to problem solving, that is actually the worst way to problem solve, is through the prefrontal cortex, because all you're really doing is focusing on the problem. And it makes resolution so hard because creativity is actually a right brain process. And so like that's why like being bored, right? Being I guess stagnant in a way, right? Not really looking for the resolution actually helps you solve the resolution because your mind is opened to all of the possibilities.
I wonder if that's even related to I remember talking to a professor about this in my master's, like if you're stumped on a problem, take a break and come back. And it's not even, I think it's less about like, hey, you're going to go think about it while you're going to take your break, but more like I guess your prefrontal cortex is so focused on this avenue that you're trying to take that you need to get off the road and then start again and maybe take a different direction. Like I bet you that's somewhat related, but maybe not the same thing.
No, I think it's exactly the same thing.
I totally agree with that. I feel like that's also, I mean, I could talk about this forever, but that's also why like being on social media a lot stunts your creativity, because it's what you're consuming as opposed to what you're creating to put out into the world, right? Like every bit of energy you're taking to consume like whatever's on social media is what you're taking away from your ability to create. So that's I could talk about that forever too. Another thing I wanted to mention is I feel like Proverbs is a great like book to hone in on when it comes to like, is being rich evil or bad? Because there is like Proverbs is something I've kind of ignored for a lot of my life because I'm just like, it's just constant sayings with like fortune teller, like little, like cookie, you know what I'm saying? Like the
Sure.
little
Yeah.
Chinese fortune cookie things. But I've been reading through it a little bit more, and I think it just repeatedly says, when you work hard, you're blessed. And that blessing is like from God.
Mm.
And so I don't think that necessarily like being rich in itself is like not good or evil. One verse that I got to just now as I was like flipping through it is Proverbs, I think 11:24, and it says, "One gives freely yet grows all the richer. Another withholds what he should give and only suffers." And like I think that also kind of highlights the mentality that God calls us to have when we're rich, is rich with money, is to use those as like, and be a good steward and like pay it forward or do good on this earth, to help God's people. And like when you're not doing that is when like it becomes more malicious and I guess like more self-serving.
Yeah.
And I think that's not blessed by God. Like that change of heart posture of like keeping everything to yourself is when it gives root to like selfishness and envy and greed, and God never wants any of those things for us.
That reminds me of a friend who, like growing up was like always working really hard to, like, you could tell a big goal of his was to be wealthy, right? And like would always like even would keep a list like, all right, like, up, you owe me like, 25 cents from that one time. Remember, you paid me back $1 of it, but not the 25 cents. Like, was very adamant. And even at the time, like had, a good chunk of change to their name. And we would always kind of bust their chops. And I remember talking to them and I was like, what's your goal? Or I don't think I asked them like, why do you want to be rich? That just sounds like a stupid question. I don't know if I asked them that specifically, but something came up that kind of threw that question out there. And he was like, oh, I want to be like Batman. And I was like, what do you mean you want to be like Batman? Like, you want to be like, Caped Crusader or
Like he
whatever. He's
wants
like,
to-
no.
Yeah.
He's like, Batman could do good things because he's rich.
Yeah.
Batman wouldn't be able to do that if he wasn't rich, And he was basically saying like, I want to be able to take care of people. I want to like have a business that employs people so that they can provide for their families. And I want to,
Mhm.
provide for my own family and my friends and XYZ. And I was like, damn, that's actually really
Yeah.
kind and really,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't have thought, it always seems like there's all this honor in being poor, and I don't think there is or isn't. I think it's just, I guess, kind of what you're saying, Natasha, like, and both of you actually, Natasha and Sarah, the idea of like, okay, are you like using your talents, right? And are you using them to multiply them and be fruitful, to go out there and do the work that God has called us to do, right?
So I don't want to get stuck in the weeds of what I'm about to say, but something that I think is very interesting, and a form of philanthropy called effective altruism. Have you guys ever heard of this?
No, but you sound really smart saying it.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's
We're all
actually
this
kind of
vocab.
that's actually kind of the point where it's like this I disagree with this philosophy or whatever, where it's the idea is the more money you have, then the more good you can do. And so some people that tend to be pretty rich or get pretty rich, through some type of business means or whatever, they some people think, well, I should use all my time and energy to get as rich as possible because then I can do even more good with the money that I'll eventually have. And I think it's dangerous and becomes, part of that mindset of like, oh, I'll eventually get to donating my money, maybe when I die, but like after I use a lot of it,
Or maybe you won't, and you haven't done it along the way. Yeah.
And so it's interesting because like on the surface, I think it's like it almost makes sense, but then like the more you start to think about it, and the more you kind of like dig into it, I think it becomes a bit more like greed oriented or something like that. But and so that is an interesting, I don't want to get stuck in the weeds of it, but what you guys were all just saying was making me think that, because there is a line where you have to decide, okay, I need some level of security for myself, financially, and then I can help people either financially with my time. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing. It doesn't always have to be financially, right? There's things you can donate other than money.
Well, and not only that too, I think like there's also something to be said for like it is okay to be motivated to building wealth in some capacity, but I think kind of like what you just said, James, there's a line, right? I mean, like I think capitalism does a really good job of kind of like asking that of people and like holding that carrot, for example. And I don't think that's bad, but I think it can be bad. So I'm curious, and like we should probably, I guess, get out of this rabbit hole that I 100% dove us down into.
No, I love these.
I think it's I don't know, just kind of the first thing that popped in my head.
It relates back to what
Yeah.
to the chapter.
Oh, I think so too.
Please
I'm just saying,
100%.
I'm curious if, like I said, I'm taking that quote about the eye of the needle really out of context because I haven't read up to that. But I'm really curious, like what around that, if any, gives any context, or if there is any other context in the Gospels, for example, of like, does Jesus kind of give any hint as to where that line would be? Because I think a lot of people do think, religiously, it's more honorable to be poor because, just because of like, I guess some of the teachings of Jesus at that time. I don't have a specific example, but I think it'll be interesting to answer that when we get there.
Yeah, like maybe we can move on from this soon-ish, but one last thing that I was thinking of as James was speaking is like, I think there's a part of the New Testament in one of the Gospels where Jesus is like, one who is trusted with little and does well with that will be given more. And I think that's kind of the mentality maybe, James, where you were getting at, where it's like, if you have $100 and you do well with that $100 and you like help, you don't keep it selfishly, but you pour that out to whatever needs God might like bring up in your life, whether that's with someone else or whether that's in your own life. Like God will entrust you with more and more goods, quote unquote. And I think that's a good mentality, because I do think it's kind of naive to think that generosity isn't something you practice consistently with little, that all of a sudden you have a lot and like generosity will be like completely something you could tap into then. Like I do think that generosity is like a heart posture which you need to like practice doing with the little that you have.
I like that a lot. That's very interesting. And the last thing I'll say about it then is I've heard the same thing from like a habit of saving money, right? So a lot of people, if they're not very good with money and all of a sudden they get a big raise or a new job or some type of income, whether it's a windfall, right, from like an inheritance or something, they're all of a sudden, now that they have a lot of money, there doesn't mean they're still going to be good with handling the money, right? Like so for me personally, like I just I'm able to make a certain amount of my paycheck go into a savings account on a regular basis, and so like that's like it's a thing that I practice even when I can't, even if I feel like money's tight, I always do my best to put a certain amount away in like a retirement plan or a savings plan or whatever. And so I think that's I've never thought about that from a point of view of generosity, but I think that could be effectively the exact same thing if you make it a part of your, I don't want to say like a habit, but like it's just a part of your posture. I guess that's a good way of putting it. Then it's like, you're doing what you can with what you have.
Yeah.
And I think that's, as soon as if somebody were to now all of a sudden, make a lot of money, have a lot of spare income or gifts or whatever, talents or anything, right? Like, that's hard to change. From switching, from doing, not giving anything. And that could also, again, I think it's really important. I want to emphasize it can also be time, like, or it could be
100%.
Kind of swifting back to the chapter here. Shifting, it could be with like, letting your, your family pick which land to farm on or something like that, and being generous with, like you recognize that you have plenty, you don't need to have the best option, and the last thing I'll say, and this is a little bit of a personal example, is one of my family members that, a grandparent, had to live with our family, the last few years of his life. And, it was very, very taxing and wearing, to be able to take care of, be a full-time caretaker of an elderly person, as I'm sure, a lot of people have experience with that to some degree. And that is a form of, I think, like, charity in a sense. Like, obviously you wouldn't leave your parent on the street, but like opening up your home, like doing what you can, even if you didn't have money, but you do what you can, to help your family or friends or whoever that may be. So
yeah, I had a person in college that was my friend, and he, like, we're all college students and like have no income. And then there's something that stuck with me that I still think about, is he was just like, I don't have any money to tithe, but I can tithe my time. And that was something that like really stuck with me. And he would be like, yeah, I can give a day of my week and like help spread the gospel or help push forward like something that God has placed on my heart. And this can be my time for the Lord. And that's my tithing. And so I think that things like that also like like at the end of the day, money is equivalent to our time. Right? Like it's how much time we put into it. Yeah. And you're just kind of like taking the step before like that instead of it becoming money, it's your time. I fully agree with that, James.
I think I have a way to like, because, I keep saying rabbit hole and like we dive down a rabbit hole, but now I feel like Peter Rabbit where we're setting up picture frames and we've made our bed in this rabbit hole and we're living here. And Kenneth, who will be hopping on soon, hates sidetracking.
Let's really keep on digging. Make sure he cannot get out of this.
Like, oh God, he's gonna hop in. He's so
imagine
upset.
he hops in and we're talking about something completely left field.
What are you talking about?
Yeah,
he's so mad. But like, just because I think the looming question that I'm having, I don't know if anybody else is
sure.
Okay, what's the limit of your generosity, right? Because like, for example, on Instagram, I've been getting like, hey, please watch this video all the way through so that we can get like, some type of money from it because my kid's sick or because I lost my job and we're about to be homeless or whatever. And at the end, they're like, and if you have some money to throw in, that'd be great. And the more I watch them, because I will watch to the end, if it makes that much of a difference, what's 60 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Until I'm there forever because the algorithm keeps feeding them to me. And when do I go, all right, my time now, I have no more, to give to you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where's the limit, whether it be in time, whether it be in money? And I think the limit is if it's now stopping you from ensuring that you can keep like yourself in a place where you can keep giving, it's too much.
Yeah.
And or if it's going back to what Sarah said about like using your talents, if I'm sitting here and I'm just watching all these Instagram reels that are giving other people money for their kids or even going down to the soup kitchen and donating, but I have a great idea for some business adventure or whatever that could possibly help people, or even like this. I mean, one of the points of this podcast is to help people who don't have a community to share, through these types of readings, right? So I could sit there and be watching these Instagram reels all the time because how dare I not give 60 seconds to all these people one by one? Or I can go, all right, but I'm actually going to put my time into this thing that's going to allow me to like give back in that way. And so that even I feel like relates back to the reading, James, when you had said like you gave a perspective that I didn't really have. I thought Abram was like, okay, I don't need to choose where I'm going. God's got me. But he was also like, I have enough. Lot, you choose where you need to go. Like I didn't think about it as him being generous to Lot. I thought about it as him going, doesn't matter to me. I'm going to let God kind of take care of me wherever I end up.
Yeah. I think the question that you're asking, Franklin, is like something that has come in and out of my life in so many shapes and forms. Like in like serving at church where I'm like I'm burnt out, in like helping my parents out when I have things I need to get done. It's like I feel like there's this constant tension that I feel of like, when do I give and when am I being selfish, and how selfless do I need to be? Am I being a good Christian? It is something that I think even now I still struggle with, and something that I've tried to like maybe try to get in check or check myself with is the fruits of the Spirit, where if I feel like all of my fruits of the Spirit are being compromised by doing this thing, in the sense that like I don't have the time to pour into myself and cultivate those things in myself, then I'm like, that's something I should probably say no to. So something like this, right? Like I think this helps further like my patience, my goodness, my ability for self-control. And like even today there was some tension here, right? Like I like left something early to come here and be here on time, and I felt guilty where I was like, should I be leaving that thing early? But then I was like, wait, no, this is something I actually genuinely want to do. It's something that gives me joy. It brings peace to me. These are all things that like kind of help me connect to God. And even though that other thing that I like left early, it's still a good thing. Like that's still a good thing on its own. Like this is something I feel a little bit more passionate about. And I think this is like a constant tension that might keep happening throughout my life, but maybe that helps you kind of discern how to make those decisions. if
Well,
that makes sense.
I agree, and I want to pivot to the person who understands the mind way better than anybody else, because my first thought is like I feel like that like dissonance is like a pendulum that goes back and forth and allows you to
Definitely.
kind of like keep yourself in check, right?
Yes.
I'm assuming, but I want to like hear from the mental expert, you know.
I love this. I love that she's here.
It's so funny because at first I was like, well, who are you guys talking about? And then I was like, oh, you guys
Who's
are
gonna
talking
hop
about
on?
me.
Who is it? Yeah.
Yeah, so no, I was thinking about how like I think the best way that I can really navigate through that type of tension, right? Between, wanting to serve everybody, wanting to do all of these great things, but then also reaching that point of being tapped out goes back to boundaries. And I think like something that I always explain to a lot of my clients is like boundaries are about letting the good in and keeping the bad out. Right. So like if you are constantly like trying to help everybody, serve everybody, but it's at your own expense, right? Because this goes back to even what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago about like the whole process of basically like how do I describe this? The whole process of essentially like trying to take care of everything over yourself, right? Like at that point, you're not serving anybody, right? And it goes back to that empathy portion, right? Like if I'm so empathetic to the point where I want to help everybody else, but it's at my own expense, right? You not only are you doing a disservice, I think, to the Lord's work, but you're doing a disservice to yourself. And I was thinking, as you guys were talking, I was actually thinking about how, part of what we're responsible for as Christians is living a holy life. And I think when you live a holy life, right? Like if you look at God's example, even in like the Ark of the Covenant, there was a special seating place that was made just for him. Right? And even when God created like the Garden of Gethsemane, right? Like the Garden of Eden, sorry, not Gethsemane. The Garden of Eden, right? He set aside a special portion that was specifically for him, right? Through the tree and the knowledge of good and evil. And so, and every time, right? Like that boundary is crossed, right? Whether it was from Adam or Eve, right? Or even, I think his name is Uzzah, right? Who tried to touch the Ark of the Covenant, right? Like every time we try to like cross God's boundary, right? There are consequences. And so like for me personally, like I'm very big on if someone violates your boundary, right? And you've done the work of communicating and you don't offer a consequence, then you're going to deal with the consequence yourself. And that's not going to be fair to you or the people around you, right? Because when you're taking care of everybody else at your own expense, you're going to fail and you're going to hurt people in that process. And what really winds up happening is not only are you hurt, everybody's hurt.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, like, I think the important part of that is like, it's not a selfish thing in that we do it so that we feel better. It's a selfish thing in that we do it to preserve ourselves, to keep, like, we've said it in so many different ways, like live that holy life and to be able to give to others and etc. But that was just a small side note because we haven't veered very far from the text. Now that Kenneth's here, we would never do that. Sidetracking is unprofessional.
I was wondering what was going on there. Like, I didn't see this verse in the text anywhere.
I love it so much.
This entire time I'm like, all right, guys, T minus a couple minutes so Ken gets here, and he hates when we get sidetracked, so we gotta finish this up.
One thing I think we talked about how James was like, with Abram here being like, Lot, you make the decision, where Abram was kind of like, I have enough, right? Like that mentality.
Yeah.
I kind of took it more like Abram's like, everyone is fighting and I just need the fighting to stop. So like you do what you want to do, you take what you want to take, and like I will be content with whatever is left as long as like the disputes amongst our people will stop. And like maybe I'm just in this mentality, but like that whole verse where it's like we're called to be the peacemakers and not the peacekeepers, like that whole mentality. I also think that that's true here too, where Abram's kind of just being like, all the kids are fighting about everything and it doesn't actually matter. Let's just like just keep the peace.
I
Not
didn't
keep
even
the peace,
catch
or create
that.
the peace.
Well,
Yeah.
because it says like, and there was a strife between the, like, the herdsmen of both. I totally missed that. Like, I thought I was like, wow, no fighting about this. I really
Yeah.
passed that over.
So
I think it's
That's-
also.
Oh,
Oh.
Go ahead.
no, sorry,
I
Sarah,
was-
you first.
I was gonna say that I think it's also interesting how like if you look at like what Lot does in that
Mhm.
passage, like his response is
sure.
he looks towards everything and he tries to get like the best,
Yeah.
if that makes
Yes.
sense. And so like I don't know, it kind of reminds me of what we were talking about earlier and how like I don't think that mentality was really coming from a place of humility.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so I wonder if that's why, like, because I was asking myself this question earlier of like, why does God respond, right? And saying, look around from where you are to the north and the south, to the east and the west, all the land that you see, I will give to you and your offspring forever.
Is that how
And
it
I-
says it in your copy?
Yeah, it says it in
Oh,
NIV.
Because
yeah,
in
that's
my
the
version,
NIV.
it says, look, Simba, all the light touches. Which is immediately what I thought when I read through it. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
Mufasa.
You know, it's
I mean,
giving
that's probably
similar
where they got it
vibes.
from.
Oh,
That's
totally a
why.
biblical illusion. I got pumped. I was like, this is great.
No, you're right. Totally giving Simba vibes.
I
But-
guess, for sure.
But it makes me wonder if like part of the reason why like God blesses Abraham and not Lot is because Lot was looking at the land very like selfishly towards like, what can I gain out of this? What can I
Yeah.
profit? Versus
Mhm.
like, how can I connect back to, the fact that at the end of the day, Lot and Abraham are family,
Yes.
right? And I feel like Lot's mentality was more of like, I want my own space.
Well,
Away
and
from you.
also, so at this point, they're back where the first altar was, correct? So I'm curious if, another, just in addition to, not instead of, I wonder if Abram's mentality is also, hey, this is kind of where I was told to go. I'll stay
Yeah.
here. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. I
Sure.
think
Oh,
still
that's a
Lot
good
is
point,
going,
yeah.
where's the best spot to be? But I
Yeah,
think Abram
sure.
is like, yeah, it looks pretty good over there, but it looks pretty good over there too. And things got rough. I'm going to stay where God asked me to go.
Yeah.
And then I'm scanning right now. I don't remember. But does God tell him to, okay, cool, now go over here? Or does he say like, okay, from where you are, now look around? Like, I don't know if God moves him.
Well, I mean, it's not like Abram didn't choose anything. He just kind of settled. He's like, whatever Lot.
Doesn't choose.
He gave,
Yeah.
He gives Lot the choice. Lot chooses to go east wherever he goes, and then Abram's like, okay, I'll stay here. But remember earlier on, he says, if you take the left, then I'll go to the
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
If you take the right, I'll go to the left. So Abram's not choosing anything. He's just like, listen, I don't want to have conflict.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, I'll do the opposite.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's an intentional
Mm.
thing.
And
But it does in 12. Abram did settle in the land of Canaan, which we know earlier
Yeah.
is the place that he was walking through, and God was like, hey, see this place that you're going past? I'm going to give this to your descendants. And I think here in 14, he's just saying he's reiterating the same promise he made before. you know?
exactly. I feel like there is also like maybe Abram's like passivity in this passage is also like this quiet confidence that comes from knowing that God is with him, that the promises are there, like that no matter what happens, whatever Lot chooses, that God is
I know.
still gonna fulfill his promises. So like
Mhm.
maybe there's that like quiet faith there where even if he's not actively making decisions, he's just like it's gonna be good because like God's got me.
You know what's interesting? And Ken, I want you to talk more because you just got here, not because you're not talking enough. But I'm very much looking for like actionable advice, right? Like I'm always looking in here and going, okay, what does that mean? What do I actually do now, right? And I think if God literally speaks to you and goes, here's what I'm going to promise you if you, trust in me and do X, Y, Z, then even if God's not super specific, you're still going to be, you can have that passive confidence and be like, hey, you can do whatever God told me, I'm going to get what I'm going to get. And I believe him. Whereas like besides like obviously what's written down in terms of like, salvation and such like that, which is at the end of my life, in my day-to-day life, sometimes I'm like, oh, now I think I'm answering my own question because I guess it's in this book that we're reading through that I'm going to find what is God specifically telling me to do. so that I can have that passive confidence and go, hey, I know what I need to do. And in the moments where like I don't have a directive per se, I can have that passive confidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that is one thing you can do. I mean, I do think that there are some pieces of wisdom in here that we can take out because, I mean, Lot chooses this place because it looks good. It's well watered, just like the Garden of the Lord, like in Egypt, and that's why he goes there. But also, the text also tells us, yeah, I mean, Lot goes there. He settles among the seas of the valley, moved his tent as far as Sodom, but also says the men of Sodom were wicked and great sinners, right? And so there's one piece of wisdom. It's like, well, where are you going to pitch your tent? Like, where are you going to go to settle, to actually become a person? And there may be places that look good, but if the people around there aren't aligned with you or aligned with what is right, then that's probably not the place where you should go and move to and settle in. As opposed to Abram, who settles in the same land that God has already promised to him, that, had other people there. Because like it says, the Canaanites and the Perizzites were dwelling in the land, but not people. It didn't say anything that sinful about them or crazy bad about them. And, as opposed to settling where your tent is, where God kind of promised you, which is what Abram did. So I think maybe there's a level of wisdom that can be taken out of that somehow.
Do we know who the Canaanites were exactly? I forget. I guess like that's the hard part about recording as often as we record is these are like little tidbits that we learn along the way, and I'm like, I forgot who those people are.
I mean, I think this time, I don't know the genealogy. I don't think
mean,
they're special in
descendants of
any sense of.
Cain.
No,
Correct.
well, because
No?
we talked about that once. The Great Flood wiped out everybody except for Noah and his family, so
Oh,
it can't be that far back. But I feel like wasn't
that
there?
makes sense.
Maybe it was like one of the sons of Noah who killed somebody else or something like that.
Maybe I could Google this.
I'll wait for Natasha to Google it instead of me scrolling back. I feel like, this would be a
I
cool
don't know
moment to
if
be
it's
like, well, our
Ham,
AI
Shem,
sponsor.
or Japheth.
One
Or
day.
the clans of.
Right?
Oh yeah, Canaan. Canaan is the name of a person. In Genesis 10:6, Canaan fathered Sidon, his firstborn.
Oh, they were
And the Jebusites, the Amorites, the Girgashites, the Hittites, the Archites, the Sinites.
they're
and all
the
these Amorites.
descendants of Canaan, who was a grandson of Noah.
Mhm.
Correct.
Which grandson?
From Ham.
From
Ham
Ham.
did something wrong, right? What did Ham do?
Yes, Ham was the person with the the winery and the vineyard.
Was he the one that
got
Yeah, 'cause
was
Noah
like,
was
our
right.
father is naked?
Mm.
Yes,
and
yes.
Came
And then he told
his
somebody.
brothers, and then the two older
Yes,
brothers, I
yes.
think, went in and
And that's a
covered-
whole debate in itself.
Oh, yeah,
that was a
testimony.
fun
Yeah,
episode.
which we had. The sons of Ham were Cush, Egypt, Put, and Canaan.
Yes, so that's where it's from.
And Canaan's sons had different peoples, and I guess they just call them Canaanites.
Well,
that
so
down.
wasn't there like some curse maybe or something put on the sons of Ham or something? Basically, like
Yes.
there
Yes.
was.
Yeah.
Well, this is how historically.
Well, the curse was put on Canaan.
yeah,
And
So-
not further down than Canaan?
because it says curse be Ham's descendants. So yeah, you're right. It would be.
Well, it was.
Canaan.
Well, where do you see cursed be Ham's descendants?
I think it's in Genesis where it does say that it's cursed be.
because
Let's see.
in Genesis chapter 9, verse 24,
Yeah.
it said, "When Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his youngest son had done to him, he said, 'Cursed be Canaan,
Oh
a servant of servants shall he be to his brothers.'"
yeah.
And he says, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant.
Which
And
is
may
so
God
interesting.
enlarge Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant."
Yeah, I mean, I think it
So
also.
Canaan was the cursed one.
That's so
Sorry, what were
interesting. I never noticed that.
I feel like I noticed that, and I've heard a message being preached on, like, this is how like the sins of the father become the sins of the kids,
Sure.
where there's that propagation of sin all throughout the New Testament.
Well,
but yeah,
the reason that I ask is because I'm curious, like, so what, Kent was talking about, cool, you went to this place that looks nice, but what about the people there? Are the Canaanites a people that, have some issue right now, or was Canaan had an
And I
issue,
would say
but the
no,
people
they're
specifically
not.
don't have any issues, right?
But
So there's a lot of wild. I think I feel it in the air, right? There's a number of misconceptions going
Yeah,
on.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out.
Um,
It's mostly just faulty memory on my part.
Yes.
you know?
Yeah. So at this point, with Lot and Abram, there's nothing negative said in the text about the Canaanites.
No, just
Nothing at all.
something negative that
It's
happened to
only-
Canaan himself.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm talking about like just for Lot and Abram right now. The other thing that's negative is talked about the people who live in
Sure.
Sodom. Okay. Now we talk about Canaan as a person. Canaan, we know, was cursed earlier on in Genesis. And that's what we know.
Well, that's why I'm not asking because I'm trying to infer. I'm asking because I'm like, oh, are they not specifying about the Canaanites because they said it 3 chapters ago, or are they not specifying because there's nothing to specify here? I just wasn't sure. I didn't remember.
Well, I guess there's a difference between being cursed and there's a difference between being wicked, which is 2 different things.
But also cursed with what? Cursed that all your people forever shall be servants to the people of this person, or was Canaan?
Yeah,
I mean,
cursed?
yeah.
So
Well,
this is what
how like historically, right? Like white people have used this verse to defend the act of slavery, right? Especially
This
towards black
verse?
people. Yeah, so like historically, like especially in the church, like
Mhm.
white churches would like talk about this passage and be like, well, this is why, black people are enslaved. It's because
That's
they're the
wild
descendants
because it
of
didn't say
Ham.
that Canaan was black
It
and
doesn't.
that the other sons of you know what I mean. Like
It
if they were coming
doesn't.
from the same place, and
It doesn't,
some are
you're
black
right.
and some are white, I think Noah's
That's
got
crazy.
some answers he needs from his wife.
That's crazy.
You know?
It's true.
Yeah. I mean, so we did discuss this in the previous
Yes.
previous
This is
podcast.
coming back.
One of my my understanding and my conclusion, I think we all agreed with me. It's not surprising.
'Cause
But
you're always right.
I liked when he wasn't here earlier.
I had to throw that in, like pepper that. No, but so quick recap on what I view this as. Just so everyone knows. So Ham saw his father's nakedness, and he kind of bragged to his brothers. His brothers kind of were like, "Oh, that's wrong." They covered his father's nakedness, and then when Noah woke up from his wine because Noah was drunk, Noah then curses not Ham, but Canaan. Okay. And from what I understand, I mean, the nakedness of your father, which is that same phrase, is a euphemism in that time, which refers to your mother, right? And there's
I like the way he said
and just to prove this,
your mother.
Your mother.
I also agree.
so let me just explain this because, like, I mean, if you go back to Genesis 9, it says in 9:22, it says, "And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his 2 brothers outside." Okay. In Leviticus chapter 18, verse 7, and I can see
Leviticus.
I can see Natasha just like rushing to get there. So I'll give you a second. I'll give you a second. But Leviticus chapter 18. Verses well, I guess we'll just start verses 7, I think. So 6 and 7. None of you shall approach any one of his close relatives to uncover nakedness. I am the Lord. Verse 7. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father,
Which
which
is
is
the
the nakedness of your mother. She is your mother. You shall not uncover her nakedness. That was just a euphemism. So basically, my thought is Ham basically slept with his mom and had a child, Canaan. And Canaan was the one who was cursed.
Oh,
And that just makes way more
I
sense.
forgot that meant Canaan is potentially the child.
And that's
of
why,
that.
if you look, when Noah says to curse Canaan, "Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be to his brothers," who are Canaan's brothers. And he mentions later, like Shem and Japheth,
Yeah.
which would technically be Canaan's brothers because they all have the same mother.
Oh. Is that
And that's
what
why
it is?
Canaan which is Ham's son, was cursed, but not Cush, not Egypt, and not Put,
Mhm.
who are also Ham's children.
Mm.
I did not know any of this. This is crazy.
It is crazy.
When you read the Bible, it becomes just more clear.
I would
I think too many people
argue against clear.
I
don't know
think
if
too
it's
many
clear.
people are just like, well, I don't
think
know. Let me
anyone would
just
come to this
throw it in there.
conclusion.
I was about to say, as you
It's not
came
my.
on- it's like the
It's not your fault. You did.
it's like the meme from the scene of It's Always Sunny with all the lines and everything. It's like, I don't know if I'd call that clear, but I would say I would argue that your train of logic is well thought out and makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I would say like
Oh my gosh.
This is my thought. I could be 1,000% wrong. Yet every single piece of evidence I came up with comes from the text and not from outside of it.
That actually, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, so my question just continues to be then, like, so I'm just confirming it literally is, and I'm more asking not because I'm trying to assume outside of the text, but I'm just making sure I understand the text as it's written, because sometimes it talks of like people as a people kind of a thing. So Canaan, just Canaan, was the one who was cursed to serve his brothers, not Canaan's lineage, so to speak, not the people who came after. It's
Yeah.
just Canaan.
And then again, like also the curse is like not from God, it's from Noah.
That's a
right?
good point.
So there's things to keep in mind there. But yeah, like he wasn't blessed for
Sure.
lack of a better term.
Maybe you're right that it just refers to Canaan, just the son, and not his not his descendants.
I mean, I assume that to be true. I just wanted to I think it's one of those things where maybe it'd be at mass or just kind of like how people talk about the Canaanites, or maybe something to come. Please, no spoilers. I thought the Canaanites do have like a negative connotation to them in that maybe we fight them or whatever. I literally don't know, and people are kind of like half nodding, and I'm like, oh, something's gonna happen. So I guess like I knew there was a negative something over there. Yeah, and I'm like, did it happen yet? Did it not happen? Where'd that come from? So I think I'm just bringing like maybe false or just out of context assumptions in the mix. I do want to say though, as a white man, the laziness of using that. First of all, I there is no justification for slavery. I want to make sure that is
Evidently clear.
We all
Yes.
agree on that.
Yes, I support the use of the Bible to abolish slavery, not to support it. But like, if that really was where how they
Interpreted.
justified slavery in that way, like that is so lazy. That is adding so much context, that's not there.
Yeah, but again, most people couldn't read anyway, so
Yeah.
it was easy to deceive people. Like, I
Fair.
mean, if
And
it
also,
was easy to
wasn't the
deceive people at that
Bible
point.
at least largely, still in Latin? So even if you could read, it probably couldn't read the Bible very easily,
Mm,
But
Mhm.
that's crazy.
interesting.
Like Canaan, I thought it said black people.
The
It's
Latin
like,
term for
okay.
that is,
Yeah. Oh, I missed. I was absent that
It's
day
kinda-
in Latin school.
kinda
or
similar.
whatever.
That's funny. But yeah, so I'm just saying that to say at this point though, with Abram and Lot kind of is kind of going to where he sees his best, and which is actually not that great because the men of Sodom were wicked, great sinners. That's what it says in the text, which I'm assuming that's what it was at the
Mhm.
time. But for Abram kind of just stays where he is.
Well, he stays until God asks him to, walk through the length of the breadth of the land, which I find interesting because I think it's just another moment where Abram is like asked, like, "Okay, get up, keep moving. You can't sit here and get comfortable." And I feel like that's such a common theme with Abram is like, "Nope, don't get comfortable, keep moving." That's like I think a metaphor that we can kind of all take. It's not about finding comfort; it's about asking God, where do you want us next? Where am I going next? And going there.
Yeah. Well, what else do you think that means? Like, arise, walk through the length and breadth of the land, for I will give it to you. Like, what would? I'm not sure.
I think he was literally just asking him to do that. Like, hey, you have all this land. I had you look at it. I want you to become familiar with it. Like, I'm giving this to you. That's why that's a moment where I'm just going, okay, cool. I could see how this can metaphorically, what I can take from this, but I think in this moment he was literally like, okay, this is the land, go learn it. If you're going to be a master of this land, if I'm going to give this to you, you need to, know every inch of it.
I also wonder like reading this with Lot's perspective, I also think, I'm gonna be honest, I also think if someone was like, pick what land do you want, I would look for the good land too, So partially, like, I kind of sympathize with how like Lot made his decision, aside from the whole like you're next to wicked people. I think that would like make me slightly concerned. But the way that he went about his decision in a worldly sense, I think makes sense, right? Like we also don't want to make bad decisions, right? Like when we're making financial decisions or buying a home or whatever it is, we're looking for to make wise decisions. I think where he possibly like faltered here is not like asking God what the next best decision would be. Like I think there's this image, even with this walking of Abraham walking as God's telling him to walk, this constant like prioritization of his relationship with God. And it doesn't seem like Lot does that. And I feel like that's really where the issue is, that he's not prioritizing God. Because again, like I would do the same thing. Tell me which house to buy or what land to move into. I would try to make a wise decision there and look at what seems to be good. But I think his issue is that he doesn't go to God for his wisdom or discernment, whereas Abram does.
Well, can I that's interesting, because that puts it in a mindset I could probably connect myself to in the present day. So if somebody said, hey, pick any house you want, in anywhere in the world or whatever, and if you wanted just the biggest house or the best house or whatever, with the best facilities, and it's in like a great, there's a lot of good things about the place it's in, that's all awesome. But one of the things you'd probably have to really consider is, okay, what are the people in the community like, right? Like, is there a place for me in this community that I can contribute to, or, and be well received and whatever. And so I think looking at it a bit smaller on like, my own human scale in my own life, that like, that's probably, it seems more obvious to me putting it in that context, like exactly what you just said, Natasha. So if there was no, church nearby, right, and I was gonna have to travel forever to go to church, or I wouldn't want to do it at all, that'd probably be a deal breaker in that sense. But maybe, for Lot, it's not. He's willing to settle among the wicked people because the land is so good, right? But not saying that if there's no church that people are wicked, but just using.
It's so interesting that we're talking about this, because it reminds me of a conversation I was having actually with with my boyfriend about like how, we have these two siblings, like one went to college, right? And he kind of, explored everything, isn't necessarily as close to Jesus, right? For a lot of reasons, right? And then we have this other sibling who's kind of like the younger brother, who's in college, but he's still active in church, right? And it makes me wonder, and he's still like part of community, right? He has friends, right, who are otherworldly and like who do other things, I guess, right? But he's still firm in his foundation. And it kind of reminds me of the difference between Abraham and Lot in a sense, because I was thinking about, but what would it have looked like if Abraham had been in Sodom and Gomorrah? Like, do you really think that his values would have been compromised in the way that Lot's were?
Spoilers?
I don't know. Sorry.
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, I mean, like, in the sense,
Values
like,
compromise.
well, in the sense that, like, do you think that Abraham would have been just as blessed, right? In the context of this passage, at least.
I don't know.
Abraham,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think I don't know, and I think just the fact that is something that maybe could have gone wrong is enough to say, hey, kind of what James was saying, like consult, and Natasha was saying, like consult with God, because he's gonna put you in a situation where the only hardships that you are to deal with are the ones that you should be dealing with. Like if Abram was gonna go in that direction and I guess become corrupted by that, by the wicked people that are there, there's an argument to say that would have been a battle that could have been too hard for him or whatever. Or just not a battle meant for him, or would have led him towards, what God needs to happen, because we all play a part in this wider plan. So I don't know the answer to that question. I don't think any of us do, but I think just the fact that we could already hypothesize how bad it would have been for Abram to kind of go over there into that area that looked so much nicer and so much sweeter. I think it's a reminder, like, no, consult God. I do think Abram has the, I guess the courtesy is the wrong word, but like he has already been told what to do by God. And so he's saying, I'll wait for further instructions. Whereas in this moment, Lot, or at least it doesn't say, he hasn't been specifically told to do anything by God.
Mm-hmm.
So I, similar to James, I feel like I sympathize with a lot more, in that I don't specifically think I'm always told day to day, hey, go do this thing.
Yes.
So in those moments where I go, hey, God, I don't know what you want me to do. You didn't tell me. The answer is, okay, ask the guy.
Yeah. But even that heart posture, I think of like that, I find myself there too, where I'm like, I'm making decisions day to day, or like, I don't hear like Abraham heard from God, like, it's not like when I was making a decision of what college to go to, God was like, this one,
Yeah.
Like, and it's kind of just like this like, I feel like this is how I make decisions. I'm kind of just like, you've given me the knowledge and the wisdom that I have. Everything I have is yours. And I'm making these decisions based off of everything you've given me. So I'm faithfully hoping and praying that this is where you want me to go.
And well, as I say, for what purpose, right? So like,
and for what purpose? Exactly.
Yep. So like Lot isn't looking to do right by God. He's just looking to do right by him in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're, I think, this goes back to what Sarah had said earlier about like using the talents. Was it talons or talents?
Talents.
It is talents. Okay. That makes way more sense. But using the talents.
Talents.
I was like, weird, but
Were
okay.
you thinking it was talents this entire time?
I'm going to cut that part out. No one's going to know.
No, I think you should.
That was like a good 40 minutes ago.
I was like, it's probably talents, but it wasn't coming across. So I was like, who knows?
That's valid.
Listen, I got the same message. But no, like the idea of utilizing what God has given us in service to God, right? Like I have a similar, not to go down a whole rabbit hole, I would never do that, as I stare again. But like there was a job that I had the opportunity to have last year that looked like a great job. It really was like the Garden of Eden of jobs, in terms of like my profession. And I sat there and I was like, I don't know, should I go there? Like, it looks pretty sweet, but like, what am I risking? Where am I? So the thing that I prayed to God is I was like, where am I going to do your work the most effectively? Is it going to be in the job that I have now? Or is it going to be in the job that I could take? And I personally, I don't think he told me to go either way. And I think it's because that was kind of him saying, I'm going to accomplish what I need to no matter which place you go. So just go. So I did choose what I thought made the most sense. Or maybe like, he influenced me and nudged me in a direction. Which one? I don't know. But either way, the point is like my first thought had to be, and I think should be in those moments, you don't know, consult the big guy. Where are you going to be the most effectively utilized? And that's going to be both good for you and good for the people around you.
Yeah. And I wonder if that's exactly what would have happened with Abraham, right? Because like throughout this entire passage, like Abraham is constantly talking to God in some sense, right? And it kind of makes me think about how like even like the beginning of Abraham's journey, right? Like he was called out of Ur of Chaldeans. I don't know why that's always been in my head from Sunday school.
You get the whole
whole
phrase.
phrase is always in there. It's been, trauma. But I say this because like, in a sense, the way I see Abraham is his faith was always his own, right? Mm-hmm. But it sounds like in this passage, him and Lot were like together for most of, their traveling, right? As family. And at this point, Lot is saying, no, I want to kind of do my own thing. Like, it's too much for us to be in this space together. I need to separate from you, right? And so it sounds like Lot is also going through his own way of trying to like discover himself, right? And I'm sure, like, as we read through, like, the next couple of passages, right? Like, you also see how Lot's faith is developed, right? On
Well,
his own.
And could you also look at this metaphorically as like they're a representation of two sides that we kind of have?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when it says like their resources kind of like basically both of them couldn't settle here. It's more saying like you could have the mindset of Abram or you can have the mindset of Lot. You can't
Exactly.
have both. They don't work.
Yeah. I also wonder if like I'm as we're talking about all this, I kind of so Lot's Abram's nephew, right?
Mhm.
So younger and nephew. Like I also wonder if he's witnessing how Abram's relationship with God is developing. And it makes me think about like that phrase that we throw around sometimes where we have to make our faith our own. Like we can't live, we have blessings based off of, a lot of times it's our parents, right? We have blessings based off of our parents' faith, and we learn who God is through their faith, through their example. But eventually we get to a point where we need to make that relationship our own. And I wonder if that's what's happening with Lot a little bit here.
Exactly.
Where he's kind of witnessing like Abram's relationship with God and the blessings that come from it. And then he hasn't developed or matured in that yet. And he's kind of making mistakes and figuring it out.
Sure.
But yeah, I think that goes to Sarah's point.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly why like I bring up like those two siblings, right? Because like one had a solid foundation, right? Where it didn't matter what type of chaos was surrounding him, right? Like he was still growing, right? And he was still bearing fruit, kind of like what Natasha was saying earlier. Versus like the other sibling, right, who is kind of, you know, out in the world, doesn't really know where he's going, is kind of stumbling through, right? And you can see that there's this loss of connection between him and church community, primarily because he never really had that strong foundation to begin with, right? And I think, yeah, I wonder, that's kind of how I see Lot and Abraham in this passage, where Abraham has this unwavering faith that like wherever Lot goes, he'll just go the other way and everything will be fine.
You know what's interesting? You know, Natasha, as you say, like Lot's watching Abraham, you know, have this relationship with God, like watching only to a point. I don't think Lot is seeing God and Abraham converse. I think it probably looks like, you know, the way that we all see, like, oh my gosh, that person's over there is so faithful and etc. Which I think is just kind of interesting. I don't know. It's interesting to note because it's one of those moments where it's like the idea of, cool, I'm watching them do this, but I don't know if Lot specifically believes or interacts with God. Lot right now is just like you said, kind of like almost like an apparent figure, obviously, not his son, kind of just following along. And then it comes to a moment where it's like, okay, you're going to go off on your own. And he hasn't created that relationship with God yet.
Yeah,
and I think, again, metaphorically, you know, you're looking at that and going, this is where that might get you. You know, so just trust in him instead. Create that relationship, create that conversation, because Lot isn't talking to God right now, and God hasn't spoken to Lot yet, or maybe never will. I don't know.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So just to kind of bounce off what you all have said so far, and also bring us to the last verse of this chapter. I don't know. I personally find that very powerful. Where, you know, the last verse 18, it says, Abram moved his tents and went on to settle near the terebinth of Mamre. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
It's
to me.
just so powerful. I can't even pronounce it. Which is at Hebron. And then finally there he built an altar to the Lord.
Altar to God, yeah.
Yeah, and that's ultimately like it's like that's always going to be his first priority. Is going back
that's
to
the
exactly
rich guy on Instagram.
What was that?
That's the rich guy on Instagram.
Yeah.
Somebody goes, "How are you so rich?" And they go, "Well, number one, God." They build their altar first.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, some of them might not be great people. I don't know these rich people on Instagram.
Well, so one of the things that I think about too, there's a saying that I heard. I don't remember. I don't think it's in the Bible or anything, but I kind of have a love-hate relationship with the saying, which is something to the effect of, traditions are solutions to problems that we forgot about. So the reason we have a tradition is because we had a problem, and performing this tradition solved it so well that we don't even see the problem anymore.
Yeah.
And I think of that sometimes in the context of modern society, where it's like, okay, you know, maintenance, right, on infrastructure is kind of, it's not a tradition, but a lot of times you don't really see it, and if you don't do it, it eventually does become obvious. You can put off maintenance so far, whether that's on your personal infrastructure like a car or a house, but I think the same is, I think that what that saying was said was because of the tradition of going to the church. Or Kenneth is agreeing with me vehemently. I appreciate that, Kenneth. Thank you. So yeah, the tradition of the so I guess when in doubt, praying, going back to that foundation, very similar to what Sarah was saying, like having that strong foundation. Yeah, that's it might not solve your problems, but I think it's ultimately part of the solution, I guess.
And you know what, too? It's it's funny. I actually very much like that phrase, James. And I think what's really cool about that, though, is like it also puts out there that
I'm sorry, James is just smiling so much after you said that. Like, he's
beautiful.
This must be the best compliment he's ever gotten.
But like, because
he's literally blushing.
Franklin, why don't you repeat the saying so we all are on the same page?
Well, I'm gonna paraphrase it, but the idea that traditions are I guess solutions to problems we forgot about. Is that exactly it?
Yeah.
I like that a lot because it also kind of says, "Hey, is this a problem anymore?" You know what I mean? And so what I like about that is it kind of also has like, hey, these traditions, these are solutions, these are good things that you may or may not have to do anymore. So why are you doing it? And I think a lot of people, and I see that with a lot of like dogmatic tradition today, whether it be religious or non-religious, where people are either following it so intensely or they're going, that's the old way of doing it. It's outdated. Get it out of here.
We need to do something new.
Yeah. And I'm like,
hip.
we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right?
Yeah.
We need to do both. We need to look at it and go, is this worth doing anymore? And if it isn't, great. That's fine. Learn from it and move on. But if it is, well, thank God we know. Why are we doing this? Is there more we could be doing? Does that, are we forgetting something else because of it? Let's really make sure we are aware of what's going on. So I just like that it kind of has in there that little bit of a call to action to, really be mindful about what you're doing.
Well,
Not blindly follow that tradition.
Yeah, and I also think that's why it's important to like look towards creativity, right? Because a lot of the solutions are in front of our faces, right? But we're so focused on staring at the front of our hand, right? That we can't see the whole world around it.
Ooh, I hate how literal that is with social media.
It's so cringe, right? But it's exactly what happens, I think, when we're trying to solve problems or when we're trying to resolve conflict. We're so focused on all the wrong things that like it makes it so much harder for us to really see what's outside, right? Which includes our traditions, right? Because our traditions come from our ancestors, right? Our ancestors who have, really sacrificed a lot so that we could be here.
Yeah.
And so like when you think it, like I get so emotional when I think about this because like I think there is something towards really sitting down with our elders and learning from their experiences. And what I see, especially in the church that is frustrating is like a lot of people who just don't care, right? And they think they know everything. I think that's the thing
I wanted to add that too. Yeah. It's either they don't care or they go, oh, I figured it out.
No.
I'm like, oh, did you?
Yeah. And I just get so frustrated with that because it's like, do you really think that the problems that you're facing are new? Like, you think you're the first person, right, who has struggled with this in your faith, right? And I think that's why I think community and connection are so important, right? Where Abraham was looking to connect, Lot was just looking to, like, separate. And I think this passage, like, at least from my understanding of it, it really looks towards the power of, trying to connect so that you can grow. And I think when we try to disconnect, it's harder to grow by ourselves.
Oh.
Another saying, this is not a media recommendation, but another saying that goes right along with that, Sarah, is, I'm like very tropey today, very whatever, very
whatever the hell.
I love it.
Like I'm saying like phrases, like I don't know, like, and one of them, Sarah, is if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that's it sounds it sounds similar to what you're saying, where it's just like if you want to really grow in your spirit life. I mean, this podcast alone has definitely made me, just open up my perspective immensely to things that have been exactly like right in front of my face before, but I didn't have the the community to help really see beyond just the surface level.
My closing thought, because I do have to run, is that I love the sentiment of that, James, but I hate the saying because going fast sounds so cool. I just want to go fast. Like, you want to go fast, go alone. And I'm like, see you later, idiots.
Go fast.
You were
Peace
gone
out.
before the end of the
Friends on
saying.
way. If you go fast, you meet some new friends on the way, then you go further, and then you drop them and keep going fast.
Or you go fast.
You ditch him.
Yeah,
It sounds like
Yeah.
that.
You're
If you want to
just
go
so
fast, you
funny.
go alone. If you want to go slow, go with other people. Like,
It's the tortoise
It
and
is
the hare.
really
though.
slow when you go with other people, though.
It really is.
here's the thing with the
It's
tortoise
not
and the
slow.
hare. The hare was also stupid. He was fast and dumb.
As long as you're not stupid, you'll go really far and fast.
But any other
No.
closing thoughts besides any criticisms of James' tropes?
No, I love it.
I love
keep
his
Thank you,
tropes.
Cameron.
They're
Thank
the
you,
great.
thank you.
They're the best.
I love
I love
how-
receiving tropes, so please give me your tropes.
Aw.
I love the setup that this little transitionary chapter is going to do for the future episodes.
For sure.
Abram's
Spoilers.
chilling in Canaan.
Dun dun dun.
His nephew is not. And that's going to cause a lot of problems.
There it is.
A lot.
Dun
I
dun
love that
dun.
too.
What's gonna happen?
Was he here when I did this before?
Totally giving Simba vibes.